son? What's your emergency?
My son's missing. He was taken out by police. I want
Back in early July, I did this perhaps poorly received, or maybe better yet, not fully understood video about Zoroaster and worship of the destroyer. The seed idea for that study, and mind you, I no longer really focus on doing decodes like I used to on my original channel before it was destroyed, if you will, by the platform gods, little g. All started with a post on Facebook by Brother John Traczyk, and apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. While we are, air quote, friends on Facebook, I've never really heard your name spoken. Anyway, he's constantly posting about Nibiru, aka the Red Sun, aka our sun's binary twin, aka the Destroyer. And it was the images of the Destroyer, ancient carvings and depictions of it, that caught my attention because I was like, hey, that's Zoroaster. He's in the Bible. By inference only, of course, because he was a prophet or seer that provided guidance to Cyrus. Well, Brother John Traczyk posted again about the Destroyer, but also much has happened since I first did this video. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing a mashup of sorts of various other things I've said, some new stuff like a cartoon about Mormonism and the Latter-day Saints, who are Zoroastrian subcults. Bet you didn't know that. Yeah, that was something I only mentioned in passing in the first video, but I briefly showed how LDS is listed on the Zoroastrian website. As a side note, while I'm thinking about it, because I also am not certain how clear I was on a point that I make later in this video, another Zoroastrian subcult is Scientology. One sec, bear with me. And who, speaking of Scientology, and who's the main icon, oikonos in Greek, figurehead of Scientology? What movie does this person play in? What's the symbol of that movie? Who ran the Olympics torch this year? And speaking of the Olympics, does this imagery of the beast rising from a pile of ash, covered bodies, remind you of anything? It should, because it's like a live-action version of that scene in I, Pat Goat. So, how can we easily identify Zoroastrian cults? Well, an easy way to do it with at least a modicum of rule of thumb accuracy is they all have to do with space, aliens, other planets, planet seeding, etc. Scientology teaches, for example, they worship an alien god named Xenu.
75 million years ago, this planet was called Tigyac. There were 90 planets in this sector called the Galactic Confederation. They had elected a fellow by the name of Xenu to the supreme ruler, and they were about to unelect him. And he took the last moments he had in office to really goof the flute. Xenu decided to take radical measures to overcome the population problem. Beings were captured on other planets and flown to locations near 10 volcanoes or more on Earth. Beach bombs were dropped on the volcanoes, destroying the bodies of the beings who, as thetans, attached themselves to one another as clusters. A revolt followed of the loyal officers against Xenu was locked up in an electronic mountain fortress and remains there still. Since that time, beings born on this planet have had clusters of thetans attached to their bodies. OT3 can run out these clusters and cause them to leave us and reincarnate as individuals.
There is a reason for people feeling sad and depressed, an alien reason.
Zoroastrians and Mormons worship a god from the stars, and Freemasons, the original Luciferian cult after Zoroastrianism, exists to standardize all false religions as their ultimate upline, speaking in terms of multi-level marketing. And also, they all reference Egyptian symbology. Regardless of their oddball, quirky belief systems, it's always strangely linked to Egypt. Think again, Freemasonry. If you follow these timelines back from all these subcults, going backward in time before their origins, They all come together and align with Freemasonry and ultimately, or originally, Zoroastrianism. They are the original gangsta satanic cult, and they date back to the kingdom of Tyre, which is where Lucifer's spirit fled to after being banished from Eden. Okay, last thing before I get started. This morning, it is August 26th as I'm making this. I posted in my YouTube community about the upcoming football weekend. I'm not calling out dates of anything. You all know, if you've watched me for any time at all, that I believe we are already in the Tyre window, so I'm watching every day for Jesus to return, but I can't be sure just how much bad stuff or overlap there will
Let's all go to the lobby.
be centralized and controlled.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Under Zoroastrianism to test the restrainer. So this is just being called out to showcase how they communicate, so you can begin to recognize what's false. I wrote, and sorry, these pictures will all be out of order, so pardon my swiping back and forth, but this upcoming football weekend, I wanted to give a friendly reminder of Batman. This Batman with his evil character Bane, which happens to be an alternate name for Satan, blowing up a football stadium while all eyes are on TV watching. After the Star Spangled Banner is sung, Francis Scott Key wrote that song, and remember the Francis Scott Key Bridge and the number 76. They also blow up bridges, cutting off the city so the police can't get there in time to stop them from detonating a dirty nuke. The ad that I got when I was looking for this link, you see there at the bottom, shows ABC showing us how it's done is about to begin. Then there's the number 322 on the private box seats, or Go code. And this morning, my smart TV advertisement for football depicts 88 prominently. So why am I doing this video? Because it doesn't sound very Christian. Well, I'm glad you asked. What's the number one argument we as Christians get from atheists and non-believers? The Bible wasn't first, which is only technically true, because the Bible was written later, but you get what I mean. So rather, Christianity or Judaism weren't first. How can we be so arrogant as to think ours is the right one, etc.? You know, all these translations, etc. Well, let me ask you this question. What belief system or God is mocked the most by everybody? Jesus Christ, Jews, and Christianity. One doesn't waste time mocking what isn't true. And so if God and Adam and Eve, including Lucifer, were the first ones in the Garden of Eden, and mankind, which is represented by Adam and Eve, and Lucifer were the first and last ones kicked out of Eden, and Lucifer immediately went to work kicking off all these offshoot deceptive religions that would get obfuscated through time, such that because downstream generations will be so hate-filled and deceitful that they won't even listen, much less study these things to be shown how they are wrong. Now that we're at the lion's gate of the end of time, so to speak, and Satan's deception motor is running on all pistons, of course we're going to encounter opposition. They can't hear us. They've now been all given over to a reprobate mind, or soon will be. At any rate, there's all these new things that have taken place since I did this first video, and I'm going to try and touch on these things in a slightly jumbled new order in hopes my points become clear and so they make sense. Some of this you've probably heard if you saw the first video, like I said before, but with this new information in 2020 hindsight, like with the Olympics now having happened and Tom Cruise and all the godless or pagan ridiculousness, it just really brought things into focus for me. So let's get started. John Traczyk posted some of what he calls the destroyer pics. Then that sparked a memory of the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, which then sparked a memory of Zoroastrianism, which sparked a memory of the deceased Senator John McCain. Why am I talking about John McCain? I'll get back to that. There's a lot of moving parts in this video, and by necessity, I'm keeping it short. If there's anything that you want to study more in depth or fact check me, please feel free to do so on your own. I'm just going to keep to the points. Who was Zoroaster? Zarathustra was his name in Greek, and very few people around the world still worship this religion. 60,000 in the entire country of India, which is one of the most densely populated countries on the planet, is an example of just how few people subscribe to this. But strangely enough, it's still alive and well as an almost, dare I say, secret religion in America. In 2006, coincidentally and unrelated, I'm sure, to the TV series Jericho being released, where the United States nukes itself so NATO forces can take over the remains, that same year began the North American Zoroastrian Congress. In 2024, this will be their 18th one, and it will be held in Houston, Texas. Their push is to create a resurgence of the religion in America. For whom? Generation Z. Here's a quick snapshot of the May 2024 issue of National Geographic containing an article, Keepers of the Flame. Think flame like an elemental force, like that one priest character gathering elements in the movie called The Fifth Element, starring Bruce Willis. Want to know what other religion is derived from Zoroastrianism? The Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints is. Here they are on the website for the Zoroastrian religion.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Mormonism teaches that trillions of planets scattered throughout the cosmos are ruled by countless gods who once were human like us. They say that long ago on one of these planets, to an unidentified god and one of his goddess wives, a spirit child named Elohim was conceived. This spirit child was later born to human parents who gave him a physical body. Mormons believe that Elohim is their heavenly father, and that he lives with his many goddess wives on a planet near a mysterious star called Kora. Here, the God of Mormonism and his wives, through endless celestial sex, produced billions of spirit children. To decide their destiny, the head of the Mormon gods called a great heavenly council meeting. Both of Elohim's eldest sons were there, Lucifer and his brother Jesus. A plan was presented to build planet Earth, where the spirit children would be sent to take on mortal bodies and learn good from evil. Lucifer stood and made his bid for becoming savior of this new world. Wanting the glory for himself, he planned to force everyone to become gods. Opposing the idea, the Mormon Jesus suggested giving man his freedom of choice, as on other planets. The vote that followed approved the proposal of the Mormon Jesus, who would become savior of the planet Earth. Enraged, Lucifer cunningly convinced 1/3 of the spirits destined for Earth to fight with him in revolt. Thus, Lucifer became the devil and his followers the demons. Sent to this world, they would forever be denied bodies of flesh and bone. Those who remained neutral in the battle were cursed to be born with black skin. This is the Mormon explanation for the Negro race. The spirits that fought most valiantly against Lucifer would be born into Mormon families on planet Earth. These would be the lighter-skinned people, or white and delightsome, as the Book of Mormon describes them. Early Mormon prophets taught that Elohim and one of his goddess wives came to Earth as Adam and Eve to start the human race. Thousands of years later, Elohim, in human form once again, journeyed to Earth from the starbase Kora, this time to have sex with the Virgin Mary, in order to provide Jesus with a physical body. Mormon apostle Orson Pratt taught that after Jesus Christ grew to manhood, he took at least 3 wives, Mary, Martha, and Mary Magdalene. Through these wives, the Mormon Jesus, for whom Joseph Smith claimed direct descent, supposedly fathered a number of children before he was crucified. According to the Book of Mormon, after his resurrection, Jesus came to the Americas to preach to the Indians, who the Mormons believe are really Israelites. Thus, the Jesus of Mormonism established his church in the Americas as he had in Palestine. By the year 421 AD, the dark-skinned Indian Israelites, known as Lamanites, had destroyed all of the white Nephites in a number of great battles. The Nephites' records were supposedly written on golden plates and buried by Moroni, the last living Nephite in the hill Cumorah. 1,400 years later, a young treasure seeker named Joseph Smith, who was known for his tall tales, claimed to have uncovered these same gold plates near his home in upstate New York. He is now honored by Mormons as a prophet because he claimed to have had visions from the spirit world in which he was commanded to organize the Mormon church, because all Christian creeds were an abomination. By maintaining a rigid code of financial and moral requirements and through performing secret temple rituals for themselves and the dead, the Latter-day Saints hope to prove their worthiness and thus become gods. The Mormons teach that everyone must stand at the final judgment before Joseph Smith, the Mormon Jesus, and Elohim. Those Mormons who were sealed in the eternal marriage ceremony expect to become polygamous gods in the celestial kingdom, rule over other planets, and spawn new families throughout eternity. The Mormons thank God for Joseph Smith, who claimed that he had done more for us than any other man, including Jesus Christ. The Mormons believe that he died as a martyr, shed his blood for us, so that we too may become God.
Here's a couple upcoming celebrations or feasts, if you will. December 26th is when the prophet Zoroaster died, and they celebrate it immediately following and during Saturnalia, aka the pagan origins of Christmas. Why do I care about Zoroastrianism, or who Zoroaster was? Here's a funny and deceptive comment on Google search about there being no consensus about what Zarathustra even means. Except when you go to Wikipedia, you find out more about some song that Friedrich Nietzsche talked about in his philosophical novel. Side note, there's a piece of music that's referenced and its length is 33 minutes exactly, and his philosophy was apparently influenced by Zoroastrianism. In the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, there was that large, reflective, black, metallic-looking crystalline monolith referred to as Tycho monolith that first appears in the movie on Earth in the opening scene with the monkey touching it. Then it appeared later on the moon in an excavation. And during the opening scene, oh, and by the way, Stanley Kubrick was the one that did the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. And during the opening scene, they used the now famous musical piece titled Also Sprach Zarathustra, or in English, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the prophet of, Zoroastrianism. I did a little editing play there and blurred the lines between the two movies. Were they saying that in the movie Lucy, when mankind accesses 100% of their minds, that they become God over time and space, and that it was the character Lucy that replaced the Tycho monolith, making first contact with the apes, but only actually seen by the primitive man as a monolith? Where am I going with this? Well, those monoliths have started showing up again all over the place. Here's a couple quick pictures. Now let's go back to John McCain. Why was I talking about John McCain? Well, he made a strange comment at the 2012 Alfred E. Smith convention roast, and they all had a great deep group belly laugh about that one.
Finally, when Larry King asked President Clinton a couple of weeks ago what was the delay and why he wasn't out there on the trail for Barack, Bill said his hands were tied until the end of the Jewish high holidays. Now, you got to admire that ecumenical spirit. I just know Bill would like to be out there now, stomping for Barack until the last hour of the last day. Unfortunately, he is constrained by his respect for any voters who might be observing the Zoroastrian New Year. You know, some advocates for Senator Obama are less restrained in their enthusiasm, even in the media. He usually is at table 228, for example. It was my old friend and green room pal, Chris Matthews. He used to like me, but he found somebody new. Somebody who opened his eyes, somebody who gave him a thrill up his leg. And we've talked about it. I told him, Maverick I can do, but Messiah is above my pay grade.
Why was that so funny? He certainly wasn't talking about Israeli votes in that comment, because the Zoroastrian calendar is Iranian or Persian, and it's the calendar used by Zoroastrians, aka the secret religion that they're pushing to Generation Z. Here's a few quick picks for you to consider. From 2001, A Space Odyssey, the sun coming over the moon. Was that to depict man overcoming the second heaven again? What would that look like as a symbol turned upside down, I wonder? Here's the winged being again used by Zoroaster from Generation Z. Here's those pics again that John Traczyk shared of the winged destroyer image on ancient artifacts. Did you know that the Zoroastrian religion of fire says that they inspired the Hebrew Bible? That sounds like something a Persian or an Iranian would say. Do you see where I'm going with this yet? I'm just going to throw out one more name from the Bible. And it was this Persian fella, you may have heard of him, who worked with a prophet named Zoroaster. Do you know what this guy's name was? Cyrus. What's Cyrus known for? We'll go to Isaiah 45, 1 through 25, if you'd like to know more. Who today is compared to Cyrus? Is he an evil man or a good man? And is God using him? Well, given the context of Cyrus, the argument could be made that he is, or God is using him. But if this comparison is to be accurate, it must be said that Cyrus was not a good guy. God used him, yes. Good guy, no. I love what Google asks. What did Cyrus the Great do for human rights? Well, in 539 BC, the armies of Cyrus the Great, the first king of ancient Persia, conquered the city of Babylon. But it was his next actions that marked a major advance for man. He freed the slaves. Notice they don't mention what slaves. Declared that all people had the right to choose their own freedom and established racial equality. So asking a question like that, or making a statement like that, like what Cyrus did for human rights, that's a secular, godless question from a secular, godless collective worldview, which I am not. What's Babylon today? America? Brother Brett at God's Land Down Under worded it well when he talked about personal confirmations are venturing out of the Bible and into the realm of saying we're seeing things from God, like the God pokes that I say that I get all the time. I don't make videos about all those that I get because if I did, I'd look like a lunatic in need of halcyon. But get enough of them together and related to something I've seen or a memory that pops into my brain, as I've just shown you here with this video. God knows how to communicate with each of us in the manner in which we receive. This is Chuck Missler saying that the story Jesus articulates to us over and over again throughout the Bible in different ways, making the revelation of Jesus Christ pervasive throughout, and not just within the book of Revelation itself, such that you could tear out large sections of the Bible and the revelation of who Jesus Christ is would still be intact. So is God going to align all the calendars, thus reversing the craziness that Satan has wrought upon us with the 40 some odd calendars, where if someone was to somehow overlay all calendars like a scatter diagram, that there would be a recognizable cluster of dots all around one particular date? I don't know, but can you imagine? I was born on the day man set foot on the moon, July 20th, 1967. So actually 2 years prior, because that happened in 1969. So I was already toddling about and soiling myself as my parents watched Walter Cronkite on TV on my birthday, the exact scene of which was recreated inside Walt Disney World's Epcot Globe Spaceship Earth. There's an animatronic living room scene from July 20th, 1969 with furniture that actually looked a lot like my house at the time. But I digress. Also, Sister Ann B. on my Telegram channel shared these slides about the Apollo 11 lunar lander adventure, all taking place within the window of 719 to 721. A couple things to notice. The lunar module was called the Eagle. Think that's by chance? Because when we fly, we will go where the eagles soar. But the project that got them there to the moon was named after Satan, Apollo, Apollyon, Abaddon, Apollo 11 no less, 1111, as above so below. So some wonder if the landing even really happened. I've talked about this in this video captioned here, It's over on Rumble from several years back when I was into doing decodes. And don't get hung up on the Flat Earth title, thinking anything new about me either way. This was, as it states there, a thought experiment, and it turned into one of the most contentiously debated videos that I've ever done in the comment section by people that neither watched the video nor understood what I was doing with it. But in that video, I talk about Stanley Kubrick, again, the filmmaker many say filmed the lunar landing on a set. And I talk about the mystery camera that filmed their first steps on the moon, wondering aloud, who do you suppose filmed that from that angle? And I follow the trail of the media of the media trying to cover up by saying that the camera was mounted on the lander. Then when people asked about it being able to survive re-entry, they said that they lost it. Then the camera showed up again because one of the astronauts supposedly stole it. Then again, when people said that they wanted to look at it, they said, oh, sorry, it's been locked up at the Smithsonian now. But the tells that something was up are still out there. First, Kubrick is dead, as is anybody who's ever done something for the shadow government, because those loose ends know too much. When Kubrick made the movie The Shining, he randomly pulled this sweater onto child character Danny Torrance. I mean, you can see how crudely it was pulled onto him. His collar's sticking out and it's all bunchy. Almost like Stanley was trying to tell people, I did this and I can't take credit for it. Other things I talk about in that video, and I'll spare you the time in watching it because honestly it's a terribly done video. It was one of my first, I think it's like my 8th or 9th video, and it was before I had any good software to assemble things, and the music over my voice is overmodulated, so it even bothers me going back. But in it, I talk briefly about Antarctica being like the ice wall in Game of Thrones, behind which was a dragon, and how all the United Nations related organizations that popped up around or just before Israel became a nation, like the International Maritime Org, World Meteorological Org, International Civil Aviation Org, and the WHO, the organizations that control and lock down all information. There's no pictures of Antarctica from space, like from the space station that supposedly flies over it. Seriously, go try Googling it. It's all drawn or computer-generated maps or close-ups of someone standing on the ground. I'm like, yeah, that could be anywhere. It could be Nevada. There's no flights allowed over it. There's no shipping lanes allowed near it, yet Nazi Germany supposedly had something going on there, and Iran, most recently, somehow managed to get their tugboat warships there to stake a claim in Antarctica. And then the flag devices for all those organizations uses the flat earth map ringed with a Roman crown that could be argued represents the ice wall that flat earthers are always talking about. I mean, it's preposterous stuff, but is it preposterous? I mean, we're simply told what's out there beyond the firmament. And then I talk about movies where we live in simulated reality and are being watched, like Dark City and The Truman Show, where the god of that TV show, Earth, and the camera and lighting crews are all inside the moon. Now, I don't want to rehash all that video or get people off track thinking that I'm into or against flat Earth. I only brought that up because of the firmament aspects. See, Nimrod threatened to get above the firmament between the first and second heaven. There's Earth, then the first heaven is our atmosphere, then the second heaven is space, or the entire universe. Then the third heaven is outside of space and time construct where Jesus and angelic created beings reside. But Nimrod wanted to showcase how he could break through the firmament to space and the second heaven. Then flash forward to the Apollo mission. I tend to think that was the same Antichrist spirit attempting to break through the firmament. And when they couldn't, they made a movie about it. And so satellites, all present day space launches, all that stuff is still within the first heaven because they can't break through the firmament. If you look back at the Truman Show, you've got one light called Sirius 9 or something that falls down from the false space, so a false star. So is that where all the satellites are? And anyway, that's where CERN comes in. So they're going to try and blast a hole. Do you see what I'm saying? And then you can go down the whole witchcraft rabbit holes where their big pagan ritual and summoning and spell casting days are at periods of time when, using their own words, the veil is the thinnest. See one of my most recent videos, I can't remember which one now, but I'm talking about October 31st, the Samhain pagan festival that became Halloween. I said all that to suggest that July 20th to 21st is one of the periods of time when the veil is thinnest. They celebrate the arrogance that they already have dominion over the first heaven and earth, and that they somehow beat God by landing on the moon and making people believe it for generations, and then building the entertainment industry, doing countless movies about aliens, and the reason we can only catch glimpses of them until now is because they're on the other side of the firmament. But once the restrainer's hand is lifted from this world and we go, then the veil will be opened, allowing these aliens, i.e. fallen angels, demonic spirits, to flood into this world. Anyway, I am so ready to get out of here. I'm watching people that I know die. I'm having to go through, or, people having to go through terrible surgeries and trials. Multiple people that I know are going through divorces. There's mental illness, and not to mention anymore the imminent threat of global nuclear war and how close things are getting ready to pop in Israel. But with this whole shooting scenario that was predicted, and I talked about Big D's rise to power back in 2020. Now that it's unfolding, I'm still honestly dumbfounded by the brainwashed behavior of people I know. It's so much and so suddenly worse. Last week, I had a guy threaten to kill me over suggesting that Big D was the little horn. Said if he ever saw me in person, he'd kill me with his bare hands. And then this guy, who went completely nuts on me in comments, and I didn't even say the things that he said I said. The video that he commented on contained clips of Big D himself saying stuff, and I was just letting it play. I didn't need to say anything. But these people go to water on me, and in the same breath, they say that they're Christians. And now, and people are already getting tattoos of it and wearing ear bandages in solidarity to events. Guys, I don't know what he is or if he's anything, but the behavior of anyone in power, anyone, is seemingly not that of believers seeking Jesus Christ. Instead, they're comparing themselves to Jesus Christ, or worse yet, there's pictures of Jesus asking Big D to help him save the people of America. I'm not sharing any of that crap. Because the day after it happened, I logged onto Facebook, and it was like stream of alternate reality consciousness with all these pictures, and not just in my feed, but people I know and in my family were forwarding them to me as well, as if I hadn't already seen them, saying things like, they'll do anything to stop him. God protected him. Yeah, because that's how God works. He's running around pushing people's heads out of the way of bullets, so the bullets whiz past them and come safely to rest inside the chest of a family man behind him where it won't hurt anybody else. They've already found their Messiah, and I think we just got a glimpse of what the mark of the beast will look like. It'll be a tattoo or a symbol of a man with one eye blinded, blinded by a would-be assassin that's willing to do anything to stop him from saving God's people. And I almost forgot. Before I was a believer, I wrote horror novels and screenplays under the pseudonym Victor Heck, meaning victory in hell. I thought I was being clever. But that's why I got married also on October 31st, another really bad idea. But I wrote this extraordinarily blasphemous novel, even for me, in the late 90s, early 2000s, titled Book of Legion. Yeah, bad idea after bad idea after bad idea. I got saved, I repented, and I burned everything. I did a couple book burning testimony videos, but strangely enough, both YouTube and Rumble deleted that one, or the one with me burning stuff. The one where after burning the books that I had to do almost an exorcism prayer over my house is still up on Rumble, however. But what's on the cover of that book? Everything from Poltergeist to I Pet Goat to Leave the World Behind is talking mysteriously about deer with a full rack of antlers. There's a whole mythology thing that I could go into about that, but I won't in the interests of time. But that's the reason I put this silhouette of a demon crowned with buck horns on my book, to represent the demon horde legion being released upon the world.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!